Film review, movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast, interviews, movie reviews, and more. Live Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on the Spot Podcast and the Film Review Life channel. Subscribe.
Hi, this is Bernadette Stannis, Thelma from Good Times, and you're watching the Film Review.
What's going on, people? Welcome to episode 147 of hashtag TFRPodcastLive. That's the film review, movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast. We are your husband and wife team. I'm Crazy D.
Tracy.
And we review movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast. We are in the second full week of Black History Month on Sunday.
Yes.
And this is Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
And we've got a jam-packed show for you. 213-943-3358. 213-943-3358. The phone lines are open. The phone lines are open. So what we're reviewing today, we're reviewing a film that's going to be debuting on PBS on February 22nd. Mr. Soul.
Yes.
We're going to be talking more about that.
Right.
Bliss.
Yes.
And we're going to be talking about Black History Month 2 review, the essentials that you need to have that connect the dots from 1969 up through today.
Right.
Stay tuned for that. And, let me just run through it. The second Sunday in Black History Month and Valentine's Day.
Right.
Wow. It's a jam-packed show already. The husband and wife team review Bliss Movie, discuss Tear the Roof Off documentary. Was it really like that in Parliament Funkadelic? And then we review Mr. Soul, the documentary about the creator of Soul Talk Show, Eliss Haizlip. Excuse me.
You know what? I definitely have to say that Mr. Soul is a Valentine's gift to like all of our viewers. It's like a must-see. I mean, that project was definitely a labor of love.
Okay. Created by his acclaimed, in her own right, niece, Eliss Haizlip. The documentary chronicles the ups and downs, the politics, and the Nixon factor while bringing such a show of black love to public broadcasting airwaves. Get ready for TFRPodcastLive Funk to invade your airwaves on Valentine's Day.
Yep.
So, before we go any further, because it is Valentine's Day, let me put this up real quick behind us, right? Okay. You know, I have a graphic to go behind us as we are talking, right? Let's see how this looks behind us. There we go. There is no remedy for love but to love more. There is no remedy for love but to love more. All right, so before we go any further, being that this is Black History Month and today is Valentine's Day, we can get the Valentines out the way. Your top 5 Valentine movies, love movies of all time. What are your top 5 Valentine's movies of all time? What are yours?
Oh, mine?
Yes, yours. Your top 5.
So many great films. Okay, so the ones that come to mind that I love, right? Mm-hmm. So I love, I'm going to go most current from the latest to the oldest, right? Mm-hmm. So currently, although we talked about this, Judas and the Black Messiah is also a love story, right? Mm-hmm. So beautiful film, right? And it does talk about a relationship with Fred Hampton and his wife, as well as a love story with the Black Panthers and the Black community.
Right, in Chicago.
Right?
Right.
So, and then, once people see the film, because you'll see that the Black Panthers had a relationship basically like with all communities. People who were all just the everyday working people trying to come together as one. They work with
people who are mistreated by the system.
Right? You'll see it. The Latino community, the poor Caucasian community. It was like a love story. But what really, really stands out is the relationship between Fred Hampton and his wife.
That's
beautiful.
Right.
Okay, so that's
what would you rate that? 1 to 5. 1 to 5. What would you?
I'm going to from late. Okay, so
5 to
that's
1?
number 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the latest ones are number 5, right? So beautiful, beautiful love story. And then another one that comes to mind is Sylvie's Love.
Sylvie's Love, yeah.
Right. And we reviewed that film as well as Judas and the Black Messiah, but Sylvie's Love is just a beautiful love story, and it expands like different years, right? From the 60s, or is it the 50s?
I would say it's about late 50s, but I'm going to give it. But I'm going to go. It's going to span from their early years in their late teens, early 20s, into their middle age.
Beautiful love story, right? Okay, so that, and then also, of course, I love Still the Magnolias, right?
Why you like Still Magnolias?
I love that film. That's a love story as well, but it's a different kind of love story, right?
Explain that.
So it's a love story between it's just like friendships, right? As well as the love between the mother and daughter, right?
Love between the mother.
A bond unlike any other, right? So just a beautiful film. Okay, so that's 3. Did I do 3?
Yes, you did. I'm counting them down. You got 2 more. You got 2 more.
Okay, and then so also, I love Notebook, right?
Notebook.
So that's a beautiful love story, right? And it starts off just like what I love about Sylvia's story is about the relationship, like a young couple and their love story as years go by. Don't want to give the film away, but beautiful film. Definitely will be crying at the end of it, right?
And then number
1, The Way We Were. I love that film.
Oh wow, The Way.
Right. So that film always has me crying, right? So same thing. I'm finding a pattern with my films, right? So it's just like they start off with Barbara Streisand and was it Ryan O'Neal? And so they start off young. They meet in college.
I thought that was Robert Redford. You getting love?
Robert
story.
Redford, right? You're right.
You getting Love Story, which
mixed
I hated
with
that movie.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Wait a minute, pause.
Well, that was a good story too. So I think that was kind of in my mind a little.
That opens with him sitting in the bleachers. It's
does he remember that? I don't remember
dead winter,
that much.
And he's sitting there and he laments the loss of his love.
So that must be on your list.
No, it's not.
Okay,
because it's such a horrible. It's such a
sad story. Okay, so Barbara Streisand and Robert Redford.
Right.
Okay. When I think of that movie, Barbara Streisand jumps out a lot to me.
Right.
Okay, so in that film, they start off as young college, couple.
Enthusiastic,
right?
Bright
and
eyes.
Then you see them throughout the years, and their relationship
change,
right?
Yes.
So that's the pattern in all my films, huh?
Yeah. Okay. So my top 5.
Okay.
Valentine's Day films.
Okay.
Bliss.
Okay.
Number 5 is Bliss. We're going to be reviewing that a little later, but let me tell you that there's a love triangle in it, and it's a unique love triangle, and he has to make a choice.
Okay.
It's a beautiful piece of bliss, and we're going to be reviewing that a little bit later. 4 is Sylvie's Love, much for the same reason. The music in it, it happens that their union begins in a record store, and that's in my own heart, right? Number 3.
Right.
Laura. It is a film noir.
Right.
Film, right? Film noir movie.
Right.
But there's a love affair that takes place between. Well, you just have to watch the movie Laura. It's a classic. It's a classic movie. If you ever happen to see it come up on Turner Classic Movies, stop whatever you're doing, sit down and watch Laura. Right. Number 2, Poetic Justice. Right. Tupac and Janet, forgive me, Janet, on screen is sizzle real. That's what I'm going to say. Tupac and Janet on camera, on film, on the big screen is sizzle real. And then at the same time, you see a failing relationship between Joe Torre and Regina King. I mean, it's an interesting justification that John Singleton produces for Poetic Justice. And my number 1 for top 5 Valentine's Day films is Claudine. On and on.
Oh, that was good.
Cook it in the evening. Come in the morning. Cook it in the evening.
That was a good one.
It's all about a sanitation worker that's willing to take on the responsibility of Claudine and her 5 children. But it's more than that, because at that same time during those years, the social workers would come around and you could not have a black man in the house or you would lose your welfare. And so so the movie has a lot of dynamics to it, but Claudine, that's right.
You know what? We left out my other film.
In the evening. Who? What's that?
And we talked about it prior to this.
What's that?
Sidney Poitier.
Oh, yeah.
So I have to go back and add another film.
Uh-oh. You gotta subtract one. What are you gonna subtract?
No, I'm not subtracting because I had talked about this one.
What are you gonna subtract? Will you add your top 5? What are you gonna subtract? Let's see. Your top 5 was.
Well, I have to add a warm December.
Okay, a warm December. Okay.
And then that film, every time they play it on Turner Movie Classics, I always have to watch it. Right. So it's up there with The Way We Were, because whenever that film is on, I have to watch it. In a warm December, starring Sidney Poitier, right?
Memories and like the corners of my mind.
I kind of don't want to give away. Well, we'll just say the person that he's in love with is battling something.
Memories.
Just in case you haven't seen the film.
Of the way
it's a beautiful film, and it's a film about relationships, right? And falling in love again, right? So Sidney Poitier, he lost a wife.
He loses a wife.
He's a widow with a young daughter, right? And he falls in love.
That's right.
And he's in a beautiful relationship. And not only is there a beautiful relationship between him and his new love, it's a beautiful relationship between his daughter and his new love, because his new love also creates a bond with his daughter, which is beautiful. Because while I'm watching the film, I'm like, oh, this little girl gets to grow up with a mommy now, right?
Okay.
And so it's just a beautiful love story, because it's like the journey. You see Sidney Poitier getting to know this woman in the midst of, there's a little bit of espionage in this love story.
Yes, it is.
Along with like illness in this love story. So
That's
it's a combination of everything. So we have to add that on the list.
So if you're just tuning in, you just missed our Valentine's Day, each one of our top 5 Valentine's Day movies of all time. But we're getting ready to move on. One of those that are on my list is a new film called Bliss, starring Owen Wilson and Salma Hayek, right? Now, Bliss is one of those films that if you are how can I say, if you are challenged in the department of being able to shed tears, because you should shed tears on this film. The synopsis: Bliss, it is about a man who is stuck in a dystopian world, who dreams of and draws his ultimate bliss, the world that is blissful to him, that he would love to be in. He draws this world on paper. It is so distracting to him that his job is on the line. And that's where you hear the story. That's where the story begins. That's where the story kicks off, right? So he is so distracted by this alternative utopian world that is in his mind, so one would believe, that he goes off the deep end, and he even loses his job because of it. He loses his marriage because of it. He loses his mind, it would appear, over it, right? Now, the first thing that we have to say about Bliss is it is a dystopian, utopian divergence of worlds. That's one thing. It is a unique film, right? It is a unique film.
Yeah.
My wife watching it, because I had watched it like 2 weeks ago, but my wife watching it, we watched it again today, and my wife has a very opinion on it that I did, because I took it. You can take this film literally, or you can take the film with the way that the message that they're trying to bring to you, right?
Right.
There is a love story. There's a love triangle in this film, which is part of the dystopian world, right?
Yeah.
It plays on Amazon Prime now. There is a shocking opening that is the initiating event, and then the film just rolls on from there. You will be shocked at this. This is something that is very entertaining during the time of this virus that we are in, that you will be entertained by, and it is worth the watch. Now, what's unique about this film is it's taking you on a trip.
Right.
Because if you take it literally, you take it as there are two worlds. But if you take it the way my wife analyzed it, it breaks down more like what?
The way I was looking up the cast. The way I took it is, when the film ended, I said, this is a beautiful film. It's touching. I said it's a Valentine's Day story, because I saw the love, the relationship between a parent and their child, right? The love that a daughter has for her father, and the love that a father has for his daughter, right? As well as his love for, he falls in love, right? But then maybe it's not a good type of love for him.
Right.
So, but when I the relationship I'm talking about, outside the relationship with the daughter, right? Because Selma Hayek is also starring in the film, right?
Right.
But the way I interpreted the film, I thought it was well done. I saw it as the relationship between a combination of mental illness and drug abuse. And this is the first time ever that I've seen a story about, well, which not about, but a story that also touches on drug abuse and mental illness brought to life. Because one thing that you constantly hear about, you know, when you watch documentaries and the news, films, even we just reviewed Billie Holiday's story, right?
Right.
And there's one scene when, I don't want to give that away, but there's a scene where there's another character
where she talks about how you escape,
and the feeling that you receive when you first
take that
first hit of heroin. For her, was the drug that she was doing at the time, right? So, and she talked about this feeling, right? This blissful feeling, right? So again, this film is called Bliss. And you hear a lot of people who have battled or who are battling drugs. It's an escapism. They want to feel bliss, right? So in this film, there are drugs that the two lead characters.
Are they drugs? You don't really know. Are you taking the film literally?
Well, I see.
Are you taking it? Is it a drug or
I see them digesting. Every time they ingest these crystal tablets is when they go into utopia. So it's a drug, right? Okay. So every time they digest this drug, right? Two particular types of drugs that they're taking, they transfer over into another world, like a blissful world, like this type of world where they feel no pain and they have superhero powers, and and he's able to live in his world of drawings that he drew, right?
Right.
So in the end, they do a great job bringing it to life. I've never seen it brought to life with a person that's battling drugs. Most of the time in films, the person, when they're battling drugs, you see them like down and out, and they're going through withdrawal, and they're trying to express how they feel.
But they take you to
on a visual. You get a visual.
Right. Of what the person that is under the influence, where they go, mentally, which makes this movie it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
And then you get a feel for. You see also with a person who's battling mental illness, right? What they're dealing with, and it's a combination of what's going on in society, like the poor, the homeless, drug abuse, mental illness. I mean, it's just beautifully done in this film, as well as like a love story.
Yes, a love story, because if you are not tear-jerking by the end of this film, something is wrong. If you're not tear-jerking, because he has a choice to make, because there is a love triangle, and I'm not going to give that away. There's a love triangle in it, and you see it as it develops early on. You see this love triangle in Bliss, right? And as it goes on, and it develops, the person is always there. They believe in him. They believe in him. They want him to be well. They want to be around him.
Right.
And they tell him he has a choice to make.
And that love saves his life.
Yeah. It saves his life. I wouldn't want to get out.
I have the cast.
But okay, go ahead and get a cast.
We're not giving that away, because in this film there are many lives that he lives. Okay, so starring Owen Wilson as Greg Whittle, Selma Hayek as Isabel Clemens, Madeline Zima as Doris, Nesta Cooper as Emily Whittle, and let's see, Jorge Linderberg Jr. as Arthur Whittle.
That's right. So let's stop right there. Okay. Now, where's her name at? Nesta Cooper. She deserves an award. Right. I mean, the Golden Globes have already been nominated, so that this didn't hit it. But in the Academy, if this is an independent film, right? In the Academy, she should get a supporting actor nod for her portrayal in this film of the daughter. And I'm telling you, she plays that part all the way through. Matter of fact, Jorge as the son, he plays his position as well. It's well written. It'll keep you on your edge of your seat once the opening initiating event happens. It keeps you on the edge of your seat from beginning to end. All kinds of strange things. A dude comes up, propositions him, shows him, but we're not going to go into all that. You will be entertained. It is something that is truly escapism in more ways than one. So let's see. Cinematography on Bliss, that's a 10. Storyline, through line, very important, that is a 10. Character development, the way that they introduce you to each character, Owen Wilson's character being the main protagonist in the piece, and how they introduce you and how his mind is scatterbrained, right? And how he takes so long, the boss is calling, it takes him so long, you don't know if it takes him half a day to finally get to the boss's office. Character arc, the way the characters arc in this film, uniquely done. The use of location, right? It appears to be Los Angeles. The use of location shot both in the real world and the real world, that is a 10. Use of wardrobe, that's a 10. Makeup artist is a 10. Hair design, that's a 10. It's so many different aspects that you can go through. The use of CGI in this film is a 10. What's going on to Deborah G. Mary Kay? I see that she's watching.
Hey, Deborah.
Thanks for tuning in. So I mean, the film itself is something that is a tour de force. It is a masterpiece, and when I got to see it for a second time, I saw more of what I didn't see the second time around, right? And I'm just telling you that the daughter is a pivotal character. Stick with the daughter when you watch this. Pivotal character in the storyline, right? So what would you
see it now on Amazon Prime?
It's Amazon Prime. So what would you give Bliss?
I would definitely give it a 10 because this film is not a boring film at all. And it's not a traditional film, right? So I love how there are multiple stories going on at one time. I love how it tackles, it's not only a love story, right? But I love how it tackles homelessness and mental abuse, mental illness. There's some mental abuse going on in this film also, but it also tackles mental illness as well as drug abuse. So, and it also tackles, you know what we left out also? The relationship between the main character, Mr. Whittle, right, and his son. So you see the differences in a relationship between him and his daughter, right, as well as with his son. So, like, all of the dynamics are all in this film.
Right.
I would definitely give it a 10 because there were no doldrums in this film at all.
None.
Definitely takes you on a ride.
It rolls all the way through. All right. So the next film up is a documentary, people. It is called Tear the Roof Off. Parliament Funkadelic. Tear the Roof Off. Parliament Funkadelic. The uncut bomb.
Also on Amazon Prime, right?
No, it's not.
No, we saw it on there.
No,
we didn't.
No. Originally when we saw it back in 2016, it was on YouTube.
Was it?
For free?
Okay.
But since then, the people who produced this have gotten more smart about the delivery of film and selling film. They are on Vimeo on demand. It is on Vimeo on demand, right? This is the story of Parliament Funkadelic, or should I say the dystopian story. Utopian would mean everything was sweet. It was magnolia sweet.
Definitely
but this is dystopian. This is a dystopian tale of George Clinton Parliament Funkadelic, and what the band members say was actually happening while they were members in Parliament Funkadelic.
You definitely learn a lot.
You learn a lot. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about, I think we were talking about it on hashtag Observations TFR, how the Parlettes and the Bride of Frankenstein were talking about how George Clinton just cut that all together because the Brides of Frankenstein and the Parlettes got bigger than what George Clinton was doing in Parliament Funkadelic, and he said he couldn't have that. That is in this documentary. All right, that's one aspect of it. The woman, one of the singers in there, say that a hoe can never be bigger than her pimp. And so this is the story. This is the dysfunctional story of Parliament Funkadelic. Right? There is plenty of music in it. Viewer discretion is advised. There's nudity in it. If you feel that you cannot hear about your favorite funketeer, George Clinton, in a negative way, then by all means, do not watch the documentary. But if you want to hear the truth coming from a truth about the experience coming from band members of Parliament and Funkadelic, then watch this documentary. It is on Vimeo, on demand. You search "Tear the Roof Off," Parliament Funkadelic, and then it will come up. Make sure you smash the share button, the like button. Let people know that we're on. Tag 5 people in this broadcast. Let them know that we are on, because we're coming up with 20 more essential films that go from 1969 up through today that deal with the music that has the message in it that moves pro-blackness along, right? And so so make sure you tag and you do all that. So listen. You're going to like the documentary automatically because it's music, and it gives the man props for what he did. Now, when I met George, see, that's why it's always very important that you don't meet people that you say, hey, tear the roof off. That's it. That was really good. It's very important that you don't meet people who you like their music. It's very important, because when I met George, I went as a cameraman with another person, and they didn't know I was with that person. And I think this documentary was finishing up and getting ready to come out, but of course I didn't know that, right? So when I got a chance to meet George, he was aloof, and they were worried about people getting footage. His wife didn't want people to film anything, and so here I am with the 4K, and I'm the guy that can really put something together that's going to look good. And you're stymied at the door before you even get there, and she's using her cell phone vertically and not horizontally, which means you're not getting a full wide image of what's going on. So how are you going to capture anything like that? But that's besides the point. But the film is well put together. It shows you footage that you usually don't see from Parliament Funkadelic. They show you some the time that they had Sly Stone opening for them. Very informative piece. What would you like to say about it?
After seeing the documentary, I can understand why now they may have been a little standoffish, because maybe they didn't know if you were part of the production that was going to be releasing that documentary. Because after seeing the documentary, there's some not so nice things that are revealed about George Clinton and how he treated some of his band members.
Right.
So,
yeah. So, other than that, it's not really a cinematography because they're using established footage other than what they do when they're interviewing people. So that's standard setup. But going from modern interviews into these the classic footage, that's a 10. Sound mixing, going between the sound of modern and going into the sound of an overlaying sound and stacking sound, that's a 10. Introducing characters, introducing each character that make up the main foundation of Parliament, Funkadelic, the Funkadelics, the Parliaments, then the Funkadelics, that's a 10. Character arc, when it all starts to go left, right, that's a 10. The capture and what it felt like in that time, what it felt like to be at a Parliament Funkadelic concert. The sound is pumping in this documentary, that's a 10. The dystopian world that is revealed while still praising the man's genius. Yeah. You know how it's like a jilted woman. Like she'll say, he did me wrong, but it's like that. It's like he did me wrong, but he's still a genius. That's what this is like.
Kind of like R. Kelly.
Right. He said his
personal life is not the best, but his music is genius.
Music is genius. That's a 10. So overall, what would you give Tear the Roof Off?
I would give it a 10 for all the same reasons. I mean, personal life aside, he did bring us great music, and he put many great musicians on the road and gave them an opportunity and opened up the door for so many artists, right? So definitely a 10. And then, like I said, same with R. Kelly, and not just them, like so many, Bill Cosby, right? And that's just to name a few, because there are so many other celebrities, right? Of all genres, of all races, of all, the artist's beautiful, and the music or their acting, or even politicians, right? Who do well in the community. For those politicians who love their community, right, and who are truly there for their people. And civil rights activists, right? Civil rights activists, just across the board, right? Their personal lives may not be squeaky clean, right? But the gift that they bring to the world, you can't take away from them, whether it's in the arts or politics, like I said, or even if it's in civil rights, right? So he's a musical genius, George Clinton, right? Because think about it, when he did Atomic Dog, was he like in his 50s or 60s?
Yeah, but he was high.
Yeah, but
he was talking, and engineers.
That's one of the stories that you'll hear in the documentary. But to think, he came in there high, but look at what he created.
Yeah, but the engineers kind of pulled that out for him.
They pulled it out for him, but still George Clinton.
Yeah, it's still George Clinton.
Right. So you can't take that away from.
So this is what I'll say. This is what I'll say before we move on to the next. Right. This is what I'll say. I give it a 10. I give it a 10 across the board. Musically, the way that it's edited, the story that they tell, the narrative that they spin. But you know what? You know who's not on there talking negatively? People who were self-determined and driven. Yeah. You hear they have Bootsy on there, but Bootsy's not talking negatively against George, because Bootsy was made before he got there. Right? He had come through James Brown, and he was self-made. He also, any of the others who were main people who were, like, you don't hear Fred Wesley and all of them talking about it. So it's only certain people who allowed themselves to be, I guess you could say they allowed themselves to be taken advantage of, because they didn't have to allow themselves to be taken advantage of, right? So there's two different types of people. There's the people who are going to go on and be successful, and it's those who aren't. And you really, sometimes you really can't judge spilled milk, because I see that all the MCs worked with George. They didn't have any adverse things to say about George Clinton. They loved George Clinton. Ice Cube loves George Clinton. He worked with him several times. Prince most definitely worked with George Clinton on several projects that haven't even come out yet, but are in the vault that, you know, we would like to look forward to hearing, you know, before Clinton passes from this side of heaven to the other. So there are people, and plus he knew who he was dealing with, and to keep a large group of people in line, I'm just saying, some people are chattel. Just my opinion, my observation, like we do on the hashtag TFR, hashtag observations TFR, Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, myself and my sister Tanya, my special guest host. Observations, just my opinion, my observation. Some people are human and some people are chattel. So the film, directed by Bobby J. Brown, Tear the Roof Off, Parliament Funkadelic, Tear the Roof Off. See this film, enjoy this film. It's on Vimeo on demand now. You will enjoy it, and it will give you escapism, and you will be hearing great music from Parliament Funkadelic, and you'll get the story of how it all began all the way through. I give it a 10. Moving right along on to the next topic that we have, before we get to our main review of the night, is TFR Podcast Live, hashtag You Found the Spot. Thick Black History Month movie list.
Nice.
Part 2. And that says part 1. I don't know why it says part 1.
But it's part 2.
Hopefully it is part... Yes, it is. Even though it says part 1, it is part 2. Thank goodness. All right, people. So I just didn't change one thing, but it is part 2 of the list. All right. So here we go, people. So as you see, let me give you a quick rundown of what you see up there real quick. You see Dead Presidents, Dancing in the Streets, the story of James Brown and others, the Mac, Tear the Roof Off, we just finished reviewing that, Crush Groove, Hip Hop Evolution, Hip Hop, the songs that shook America, Do the Right Thing, Spike Lee's film, Fight the Power, P.E., Boys in the Hood, Hidden Colors, the breakup of Tony, and Straight Outta Compton, right? So let's bring this up now, and let's go through these.
Yes,
all right.
That was heartbreaking, the breakup of Tony.
Yeah, that was. Okay. So let's look at this.
Okay.
Dead President. So this is the list of films that are essential that connects from 1969 all the way through up till today. These are the songs and the groups that influence what's happening today, though there is a new crop of individuals out doing their thing today, but these are the groups and the individuals that influence what's happening today. Right? Dead Presidents movie, 1995, written and directed by the Hughes brothers, starring Lorenz Tate, Keith David, Chris Tucker, and an all-star cast. Brings the reality of life after returning from the Vietnam War back to America for American blacks, right? So what was happening? First of all, 73% of the soldiers drafted to go over to Vietnam were from American black neighborhoods, right?
Right.
So as you're looking at this, so this film is happening in 1960, late 69, going into 70s. This film is taking place, right?
Right.
So Dead Presidents is definitely something to watch. It ties in. It gives you the perspective of what was happening, what was in the mind of black GIs coming home from the Vietnam War. Dancing in the Street, Make It Funky documentary, 1995, chronicles the change in American black music from the 1960s into the 70s, based heavily on the godfather of soul, James Brown. Right?
Yeah.
And then it breaks into, it talks about other groups, that were influenced by dropping it on the one.
Right.
All right? The Mac, 1973. Directed by Michael Campus. Screenplay by Robert J. Poole. Music composed by Willie Hutch. Okay. Willie Hutch most definitely is a underrated composer of music. But he composed music for the blaxploitation films. And why he's underrated is most don't know that a lot of what hip hop uses today is between Willie Hutch, George Clinton, James Brown, and a few others. But Willie Hutch is definitely up in their top 5, right? Captures the street level politics of American life. The street level politics of American life. Now, some people like to laugh at the blaxploitation films from that period. They say, look at how they dress, look at the hats, look at all that, right? But it's one thing. When you listen to when you watch the Mac, the Mac kicks game.
Yeah.
Right? Like there's many times I wonder why people run from the police. Right here in the Mac, it tells you
not to
run.
Right.
Don't run because they're going to shoot you in your back. So they're kicking game in their stand in. Make them have to shoot you in your face.
Right.
Do not run.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, these are things. These a lot of people criticize the blaxploitation era, but it's a lot of information disseminated during the blaxploitation films. Now,
you know what? Do you remember when a story that my father had told us like years ago? Because when he was an athlete at John Adams High School, he was a star. He ran track, right? And he was at the park at the time. Was it called Wood Hill Park?
Yeah, it was Wood Hill because Luke Easter came out.
Minding his own business. And a policeman, a cop car,
pulled up
on him,
hassled
him, and told him to run. He's like, "Run? What do you want me to run for?"
So he didn't run. But
then
he saw something out the corner of his eye, and the police officer was trying to plant something on him, and he was like, "Whoa, what's that? What's that?"
Right.
And then the police, they looked at each other, and they was gonna take him up into the, because I guess Wood Hill used to have more hills or whatever in the park. They was going to take him somewhere secluded and do something. He said, well, you don't know who my father is. See, those are the type of things that were put into movies.
Right.
And he got out of it because when his father came, they found out that his father was just regular Joe Smo.
Right.
Right?
Right.
But he got out of it and he was alive today because he was able to get out of it. So those are the type of things the police were doing because they just wanted to get rid of black bodies.
An innocent young kid.
Right?
Right.
Let's see. So what's the next movie up is what we just finished reviewing.
Right.
Tear the Roof Off. The Untold Story of Parliament Funkadelic came out in 2016, featuring members of Parliament Funkadelic. A film by Bobby J. Brown tells the horrors of being in Parliament Funkadelic, right? The next film up is Crush Groove, 1985, loosely based on the rise of Russell Simmons, starring Blair Underwood, Sheila E., Run DMC, LL Cool J, Beastie Boys, and an all-star cast, right? The next film, now this is bringing this together, this is tying in eras, because remember, we told you that hip-hop is influenced by James Brown, Parliament Funkadelic,
right,
Willie Hutch, and a few other groups, right? But those are three of the mains, but Willie Hutch, again, is in the top 5, right? So Crush Groove, right? Hip-Hop Evolution, 2016, hip-hop song, and then I put them together equally, along with hip-hop songs that shook America, 2019. Both feature hip-hop artists, and the music that brought the message. Do the Right Thing, 1989, written and directed by Spike Lee with an all-star cast. The film captures the temperature of Brooklyn and the black community in the late 1980s, right? So when I say the black community, we're talking about over the whole United States, that people could reflect and relate to this movie. They could relate to Do the Right Thing, right? And what was driving Do the Right Thing but a pumping song? What was it called?
Fight the Power.
Fight the Power.
P.E. Public Enemy.
Oh, that's right. Fight the Power. That was the song that drove that all together. And what was the driving beat behind Fight the Power? Oh, it's the Godfather of Soul, James Brown. That's right. So what comes naturally after that is a documentary called Fight the Power, 1989. Public Enemy live concert video captures moments in time in the late 80s going into the 90s where pro-black mind state rose again. That's right, where a pro-black mind state rose again, right? So these are connecting the dots. Now this is music and film that influence what's still happening today.
You know what? I have a question. What is it about those Browns that have like this soulfulness in their souls and in their music? It just comes across like with James Brown, hit after hit after hit, right? Chris Brown, hit after hit after hit. It's just like their pores just ooze great music, and they're a talent, and they're both like, well, James Brown in his time, just like Chris right now in his time, forces to be reckoned with. Because not only were, or are there like Chris and were for James, but they weren't just entertainers. They could dance as well as they produced, as well as they wrote, right? Where some artists, they perform songs that are given to them to either rap or sing. But these guys, they wrote, they produced, right? And they were also businessmen. So when I saw the James Brown story, when I learned that he owned so many different businesses, right? And Chris has his own businesses.
Yeah, but you can put Bobby in there too.
I forget. How could I forget Bobby Brown too? I'm glad you threw him in there too. Because just think about Bobby Brown, right? He left New Edition. His album blew up, and it's still a classic today. Still a classic. And then he has his own line of barbecue sauces. He's a businessman as well. Yeah. He can sing. Right. As well as dance. He's an entertainer. Yeah. So what's in Chris Brown?
So something something in these Browns.
I'm thinking about the comedian. No, that's Chris Rock.
That's Chris Rock. No, there's no Chris. There's no Brown.
There's no Brown there, but he's talented also.
Something must be something on that particular plantation. Must have been a lot of jubilee happening Monday through Sunday, and not just on Sunday. Right. Let's see what Tanya in Congress has to say. Okay. She says that documentary was really good. Tear the Roof Off. Where is Bliss being shown? It's shown on Amazon Prime.
Yep.
A lot of their music was created high. This is true. Bootsy is still kicking fire. Whenever there is a large group like that, there are borderline groupies. Even if they are musicians, there are borderline groupies. Yeah, I agree with that. But I mean, everybody is groupifying, you know, because it's open sex and everything else. So here we go, people. The next thing. Boys in the Hood, 1991, directed by John Singleton, starring Cuba Gooding Jr., Lawrence Fishburne, Ice Cube, and an all-star cast. This movie right here is the movie that let the world know what was happening inside of Los Angeles, South Central, now they call it South LA, neighborhoods, right? Before this movie came out, people, like, at the end of the movie, everyone should have seen this movie already.
Classic.
If you haven't seen it,
Right.
you know, it's all right for me to say this.
Right.
Ice Cube at the end of the movie, he says either they don't care or they don't want to care about what's happening to us in the hood, right? And they said that they saw dudes that was hard dudes coming out the theater crying during the screening, and they came up to John Singleton and said, "Thanks for telling our story, because no one has ever told our story." Right? So they were very appreciative of it. Then the films that came out that were a little bit more, what can I say, sensational about it, and not really the heartfelt thing. Like, I'm trying to see John Singleton is gone, and I'm trying to see what.
He grew up in it.
Yes, and you know, I want to see what Snowfall is like without John Singleton now, because is it going to be a glorification of what was happening in the latter years of the dope trade, or is it going to be something that people will be proud that they're still telling the truth about the involvement of the CIA and exposing that for people to know that this is what was happening, that the United States government was funding a war on the backs of American blacks. Right? The next film after Boys in the Hood is one from Tariq Nasheed entitled Hidden Colors Volume 1. Hidden Colors Volume 1 filmed and released between 2010 and 2011. Tariq Nasheed takes the viewer on a journey of American black history, filling in the gaps, filling in the blanks of what was actually happening, what's actually happening with our history, right? This one is the one that kicks it all off, and Tariq Nasheed has been one of the largest contributors to taking what was in books, getting the people on film before they passed away, to tell this story in a edited masterpiece that moves fast, that drops information on you so quickly, right? And right now it's 5 volumes, but we give volume 1 the nod in this. This is what's going on. These are the films, movies, docs that move from 1969 up to today, that still influence music today during this Black History Month list.
You know what? Hidden Colors, right? We've seen 1 through 5. We love all 5 of them. Number 1 kicks it off, and just like annually on PBS, Eye on the Prize is shown, right? I feel like Hidden Colors should be shown on PBS annually. And just like when we originally reviewed Hidden Colors, I feel like it should be seen in every school, right? In every college. It should be a requirement, right? Under Black Studies, American Studies, as well as like shown, if anything, shown at least throughout Black History Month, the month of February, right?
Right.
So Yeah, this documentary is the best documentary that I've seen so far on American Black history. But then he goes as far as telling our history prior to some of us being brought here to America, because again, you will learn from watching the documentary that a lot of American Blacks were already here.
That's right.
So he does a great job in telling the truth of American history, or just history overall.
Well, American history is American Black history. American culture is American Black culture. Now, the next one up is one on Tony, or Tony. Loyalty, No Royalty, the breakup of Tony, documentary 2020, the business of music not discussed before success. The reason why I wrote it like that is I wanted to reference back to Tear the Roof Off. That's where the problem lies. The business of music not being discussed before success. You should have your knowledge of what it is to be in the music business and say, hey, are we the band? Or are we members of Tony? So history seems to repeat itself. And so Tony was a heavy influence in the 90s. Lay your head on my pillow.
We met during that period. What album was that?
Relax. Lay your head.
Do you remember?
Wasn't it Revival?
Oh, okay.
Wasn't that the first album?
Was it, or the second album? It was the yellow cover.
It's a Revival.
That's the first album. Okay.
That's the first album. It had Anniversary was the second album. The first one was, what was the song that was on there? Oh, It Never Rains in Southern California. It sure does rain there now. We'll be the first to tell you. But anyway, so look.
Because I remember when we went, and when we woke up that morning and it was raining outside, we was like, wait a minute, Tony said
it never rains in Southern California.
So we had to go buy an umbrella.
This is can we sue them for
we're like, we on vacation
for false advertising?
Think we needed an umbrella.
It never rains in Southern California. Well, it does now. But anyway, look, people. The last of this list, part 2 of You Found the Spot Thick, hashtag Black History Month movie list, part 2, Rhythm, Soul, and Rhyme, is Straight Outta Compton 2015 with the all-star cast. The film details the rise of NWA in the late 80s into the 90s and beyond. And what does the super producer Dr. Dre use in much of his music? Well, he uses the Godfather of Soul, James Brown. Right? He uses Willie Hutch. He uses Parliament Funkadelic. Matter of fact, the Chronic is Parliament Funkadelic all the way through and through and through. Right? So, Straight Outta Compton, 2015.
Classic film.
Right? Late 80s and early 90s and beyond. These are the movies, docs, music, starting from 1969 all the way up to the stuff that influences all the way up to today.
Is there a scene in Straight Outta Compton that jumps out? Like, this is another film. Whenever it's on TV, I'm like stopping and watching it. I don't care if it's on like commercial TV or on cable, I'm watching it. But is there a scene in that film that jumps out to you?
It was 2 scenes that jump out for me for different reasons.
Okay, because I have one scene that I love the whole film, but there's just I have a favorite part.
There's 2 scenes that jump out to me for 2 different reasons.
Okay,
right?
what are they?
The one scene is when Q turns to Dre
Okay.
And says, "What's up?" Because they were in Detroit, and the Detroit Police Department had them sitting on the Coliseum steps, and they were talking to him and said that if you play this record, we are going to arrest you. Right. And so they had a decision to make. If they were going to play the straight out of F the Police, and it's two different scenes, but this scene in particular where it gets why they stop, and then Cube turns and looks up to Dre at the turntable and says, "What's up?" And then Dre say, "What's up?" And then Cube say, "We gonna do this?" And then they click the Easy. "We gonna do this?" I mean, well, Easy just looking, you know. Okay. And then it clicks back and say, "Yeah." And then so, let's do it. That's what Dre said. And then Cube turns and says, "You know, they told us that if we played this song, they were going to arrest us." Right. And we know everybody put their middle fingers up in the air.
Yeah, that's
fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young nigga got it bad because I'm brown. And then something happens and some gunshots go off. They don't know what's really happening. And then, but that really turns them up, right? Now, the other scene, totally different thing. There's a scene where they're having basically like an orgy in the hotel room. Okay. And the dudes come down and they got their Glocks and everything. And so they knock on Dre's door. Dre opens the door and then they say, "Hey, is Felicia in there?" And he say, "No, nigga, ain't no Felicia in there." So he closes the door and locks it before dude can actually get in. And then he goes through the adjoining doors. You know, like how hotel rooms are adjoining, right? So he walks in there and you see the whole orgy, different people going on. And then they say, "Is your name Felicia? Is your name Felicia?" And then a yellow boy looks up at whoever he's stroking at the time and says, "Is your name Felicia?" He said, "You don't even know my name, nigga." And then she jumps off of him, and so that's messing things up. So they go in the bathroom, and of course, the person that Eazy-E has her name is Felicia. He say, "What?" He say, "What?" They got they what? Right. And then they plop the chick off the bed. They raise up. They got the pipes. They got the shooters. They got the semi-automatic, the automatics. Right. They pull them out. They say, "Hey, you looking for Felicia?" He say, "Yeah." "Well, we got your Felicia, nigga." And then they come out and they walk. That's before they had cameras in the hallways of the hotels. But so the dude ran off and the chick is standing out there in the hallway. It's standing out in the hallway, and then Cube is the last one, and then she's naked. You know, she's topless anyway. She's got on a thong, but she's topless. Okay. Cube says, "Bye, Felicia," and closes the door, and then she knocks on the door tenderly. So those are the two scenes that stand out to me straight out of Compton.
Well, my favorite scene is, can you guess which one?
Oh, you're talking about when Cube goes solo and he finds out they call him Benedict
that's
Arnold.
My favorite scene. No Vaseline. I mean, because he was just doing his own thing, man, his own business. Then they start dissing him in records. Then he go into the studio and he just...
Hot damn, I'm glad y'all said it all.
It's my favorite part.
So that's...
Classic film.
So that represents hip-hop all the way.
Yes.
All the way down the way that, hip-hop is today. You confront those that, try to place you in a situation. All right, people. So the review of the night. Yes. The review of the night, ladies and gentlemen. The review of the night.
Yes. This is our Valentine's Day gift to all of our viewers. You have to watch this film.
You have to watch this film.
Great.
It's called Mr. Soul.
Yeah.
That's right. Mr. Soul. It will be debuting on PBS on February 22nd. Check your local listings. Now, I remember when a certain piece was supposed to premiere out here in Las Vegas.
It did.
And it was kind of found out it was a dude with a mullet, and it worked. The station did not play the Nat Turner situation during Black History Month. Speaking of not playing something during Black History Month, have you noticed that Google has not put one thing up about Black History Month all February long?
Yeah, I sent him a tweet.
Have you noticed that they have not put up anything now? When Trump was in there, they were Black History down, Black History down, Black History down. But now it seems like the people who are controlling Google, who are Indians, and they have that the untouchable thing, they are not saying anything about Black History Month whatsoever. It's just the strangest development ever. But no worry about it, but just to think about how things aren't being played. But
I'm like, they're not gonna even post Kamala up there, and she's part Indian, right? So even her fellow Indian people at Google are not going to even honor her for Black History Month?
Right. So look, Mr. Soul. So this show debuts on Net 13 out of New York City, public broadcasting, back in 1968, right? It debuts just a few months after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It'd be clear to say that altogether. The visionary behind it is Eliss Haizlip, right? Haizlip, right? He is the innovator behind it. This is him right here in the inset there in the thing, right? Eliss Haizlip, right? His niece, Melissa Haizlip, created this film, this documentary. This is a 10-year labor of love. When she started on it way back 10 years ago, they told her you shouldn't try to do this because it's going to be impossible to clear all of the music that was on the show, to be able to get all the people, get the record labels, get the publishing companies, get the copyright owners, all of that to sign off on this being seen, heard, recognized, and appreciated in 2020 when the film originally released, but we're in 2021 now. She did this thing, and this is another tour de force documentary. I mean, you see people on there in their youth. You see Al Green at 25 years old. When Al Green was singing on that white album cover, he's sitting in the white wicker chair with the white suit, white turtleneck, white shoes, with the black trim all the way around. He was 25 years old. 25 years old, and you see these people. You see Stevie Wonder, right? You see the Last Poets. You see Nikki Giovanni,
James Baldwin.
You see what's happening. You see Muhammad Ali,
Harry Belafonte,
Sidney Poitier, and these people that are in their prime at the time that this is being done. You see modern dance. You see. We call it spoken word today, but it was poetry. You see, and it's uncut raw.
The minister.
That's right. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is on an episode, right? Stokely Carmichael is on an episode. Cicely Tyson. I mean, this is like truly. This documentary is something that you will enjoy watching, right? Let me run it down. Let me run down some more to you real quick, right? He believed in Eliss Haizlip. He believed in giving voice to the voiceless, right? The opening of the documentary, there is stock footage, right? And you hear Blair Underwood as Eliss Haizlip. He does a great job of voicing.
One of the executive producers.
Right. He does a great job of voicing Haizlip. He sounds a lot like them, and so I thought that they took footage and put the echoplex behind it to give it that fullness, but it was actually Blair Underwood. Blair Underwood, the white women's catnip, right? He still keeps his bona fides. He's got his black wife, his black children. You know what I mean? But anyway, back to this. So it starts out with archive footage, and you hear Eliss Haizlip's voice saying that for the Caucasian, every station they see themselves. There's not one station where you can see American. He didn't say American blacks. I'm saying that, I'm paraphrasing, American blacks, right? So in the middle of all that, they show you what was happening, the violence, the dogs being sicked on people, Vietnam War, and what interrupts that in 1968 is Soul, the Soul talk show, where it was more than just a talk show, because it was a show about American black culture.
Yes, that's what I was. Yes.
In 1968, it ran between 1968 and 1973. It is a show about American black culture.
Right.
The documentary again debuts on February 22nd, 2021. Right. Stan Lathan. Here's some people behind the scenes. One of the people behind the scenes. Stan Lathan. Right. He was a producer on the show. He went from this show out to Hollywood to direct episodes of, guess what show?
Was it Sanford and Son?
Sanford and Son. So you see the experience of being a producer on this show, where it was about black excellence pushed through to him being out in Hollywood, and we know what Stan Lathan has done. Now we know what his daughter Sanaya Lathan has done, right? Let's see what else. Again, it was a 10-year labor of love for Mr. Soul to come out, right? This is her uncle. She must have loved her uncle.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about it? Because I want your perspective to tell people what they are going to see on this, right?
You know, that's why I said this is, and we've done multiple episodes of the film review, and we've been reviewing films for years, but this is the first time ever that I have ever said this is our gift to our audience, because this is a beautiful film. This documentary gives you, if you were someone, right, from another country, if you were from another planet, right, watching this would give you a taste of American black culture, right? He covers everything, and you learn so much, right? And it's just, you just have this great feeling about this group of people who, through no matter what obstacles have been thrown before them, they still rise, right? With so much intelligence and wisdom and talent, and just still pushing the culture today, right? So definitely this show needs to be put in a time capsule. right? Along with Hidden Colors. There are just certain documentaries and films that are they just explain American black culture.
That's right.
And we definitely have culture. So for those who say we don't, are a lost people, right?
Yeah.
But this right here is just beautifully done. And when you told me that his niece put this together for him, I said to you, she loved her uncle. Because this is a labor of love. She just didn't, you can tell the difference because we review many projects, right? Mm-hmm. And you can tell when something has been like just thrown together, right? But this is definitely a labor of love because you not only see like interviews and the different conversations that he had with different people he talked to, you learn about his personal life as well, you know, and you learn about her family, other family members, and how this is beautiful. So this is definitely like our gift to you all, and everyone must see this film. This documentary is a must see.
February 22nd on PBS, right?
Right.
Listen. If the reason why we constantly continue to advance, even though the obstacles are put before us, is there is a reference and a understanding, middle standing, and overstanding of knowledge of where we've been.
Right.
They're trying to put a detach in so that the generations after Generation X won't have that information.
Right.
We told you before because we talked about this on #observations TFR, and we also talked about it last week in the first list of 20 of thick Black History Month movie list part 1, right? We talked about it, and we talked that you can go to Amazon Prime, put in Mr. Soul, and you will come to the Soul episodes, and you can watch all of the Soul episodes. They are up to watch on Amazon Prime, and I have a sneaking suspicion that after it debuts on PBS, that it'll probably go up on Amazon Prime and go along with the various episodes that you can watch if you're an Amazon Prime member. Soul, the Soul, SOUL explanation point.
Yeah.
Soul, Mr. Soul, right?
Because this is a great film, right? Because I said, what did I say to you earlier? I said, I don't want to wait to see it again on PBS. I said, let's just, just to support, just purchase it.
The film, and we purchased
and
it.
Yeah, and we're going to purchase it again and watch it
again.
this week.
Just to support, you know what I mean? Because that's what we do, we support. So I say all that to say that if you want your children, you want these next generations to be able to not only survive, not get all mixed up in all this coming down the board with the 11 million dreamers and the 50,000, the 90,000 refugees and the 500,000 Indians from India. If you don't want them all mixed up in that and being diluted, have them watch this. Matter of fact, you probably didn't know it, and so you need to put that into your vocabulary and listen and catch up. Because
if they don't have kids, nieces, nephews, cousins,
or just for yourself, so you can be on board, you will know what's going on. Because what was happening then is still happening now, because people did not take what was being disseminated then seriously. Plus, this was collapsed in 1973 through Nixon getting his people on the public broadcasting board to get them to arguing amongst themselves and eliminating programs such as this, because they no longer wanted to see blacks on TV. Blacks had just got on TV and they didn't want them on TV anymore, right? So Soul Talk Show was really the only place where you were seeing black people on PBS coming through Net 13 from out of New York, right?
And this was prior to Soul Train.
This is prior to Soul Train, right? This is prior to a lot of the shows. But when you watch this documentary, you can see how the people, because they were amongst their people, the energy was different. Plus, they were performing live. They weren't lip syncing like they did on Soul Train or on American Bandstand or on some of the other shows. They weren't lip syncing. They actually got to perform live. So when you watch the episodes, you get to see, you get to hear and see Earth, Wind, and Fire, young Earth, Wind, and Fire performing live for their people. The young Stevie Wonder performing live.
And they talked about how Stevie Wonder just loved the energy so much in the people. He stayed and he just performed.
He played that Superstition for a long time. They had to change the tape.
He had a good time.
He kept playing it and he played the long extended version, right? And you know, young Donny Hathaway.
Yes.
Matter of fact, Layla Hathaway has a song at the end of this. Layla Hathaway lays that song out. You know what I mean? So it's connecting generations, and that's what we need. We need for the generations to know what came before, so there will be no disconnect where they can destroy you finally, because that's what they want. So, you know, that's a little American, that's not a little, that's the American black politics. Close to the end of the show. So let's break this down. So the cinematography on the piece that was shot back then between 1969 and 1973, the Soul talk show, Soul, right? The cinematography back then, coming on live programming, the movement of the camera, they had modern dance and they were moving the camera with the modern dancers. That's a 10, right? Now you get into cutting modern day interviews and cutting into that time between 69 and 73 seamlessly, sound quality, A1, that's a 10. Introducing Eliss Haizlip as a character, and the supporting characters, including people from The Last Poets, a lot of women that he put into production and producer positions on the show, where black women, where the world, the Caucasian world, has not even caught up to that yet today. You know, so setting him up and setting up the various characters that made this show happen, that's a 10. The musical performances and being able to see these acts, see the people in their authentic dress from that time period, that is a 10. I mean, you can't deny that. The mixture of politics, of poetry, of R&B, of soul, of sitting down in the interviews, right? The whole staging of the program itself, that's a 10. The use of talking to people who were behind the scenes then, and how they made it and how they felt about the program being canceled and what they wanted to do to keep it on, and how he differed in his opinion concerning that. The whole story lays out the narrative. That's a 10. Narrative, the through line on the story, it's a 10. Everything on it is a 10.
It is.
It is a labor of love. His daughter, it might as well be his daughter, but his niece, Melissa Haizlip, she does her thing on this. A 10-year labor of love to bring this to this big screen, and to now to PBS on February 22nd. What do you guys say about it?
Just now, when you heard a little bit of music, I had to hurry up and stop the phone. But I love Robert Glasper. He's also involved, right? And the song at the end of the documentary, you know, I said, that sounds like Layla Hathaway. And then the song is, it's a beautiful song, right? and it's Show Me Your Soul.
Show Me Your Soul.
And so just listening to the song kind of just makes your eyes a little watery after watching a film, after watching the documentary. And it's so overwhelming in a great way, in a positive way, like positive emotions, right? And then you're hearing this song at the end, which is powerful. And it's fitting. The title of the song, it's very fitting. And what I loved about the film, like all of the interviews were great, but I loved the discussion with James Baldwin and Sonia Sanchez.
Mm-hmm. Which happens to be up on the screen now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just like powerful interviews, powerful poets. I love how it's well done. His niece did a beautiful job, like the timeline, because this documentary, through like the different performances and interviews, is kind of giving you it's giving you our history.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, American Black culture, right? Mm-hmm. And the different things that's going on during that time period. And it's just well done. So that's why I said this is like our gift to our viewers. You have to watch this.
That's right. February 22nd on PBS.
Beautiful.
Or if you want to watch it before then,
right,
you go to Google, you search Mr. Soul, right. SOUL website, and then take you to the website. You click it, and it gives you the option to watch the film anywhere, and for a minimal fee, you will be able to watch the film, and plus you will be supporting the filmmaker in her endeavor to not only get the film seen, heard, recognized, and appreciated, but you will also be getting this, disseminating this information out to people. You should definitely have a group of people with you to watch this when you order this film, or watch it by yourself. You will be informed. You say, wow, I didn't know that was going on. I thought that only happened once BET came on in the late mid-80s, right? So what would you give Mr. Soul?
I would definitely give it a 10. If I could give it a higher, I would. I would definitely give it a 10, because I love the behind the scenes. Because what we're telling you is just like the tip of the iceberg. Because there are so many great behind the scenes stories and certain performances that had to be edited, right? And they tell you why, and then it tells you Nixon's involvement in it, right? And it's just, this is just well done. So, but if they want to see the interviews, can they also go to the Amazon Prime?
Amazon Prime, they can see the full show.
Okay, so that's what I have to go back. I want to see the full show.
By typing in Mr. Soul and then Soul, SOUL, exclamation point comes up, and it's when I opened it up, it's all of the shows.
I have to watch them.
Right? So, I mean, you can catch up and you can see some of your favorite artists early on, young. It's not like seeing the people young. It's nothing like seeing the people young, because so many times the media uses the older picture to detach you from having connectivity with someone. But when you see the younger picture, like when you see the younger picture of Frederick Douglass, you say, oh. But they'll usually show you the old Frederick Douglass when he's old, gray, feeble. You're like, no, I don't see nothing in that. But when you see the young picture, you say, oh, I connect. And that's how they do the disconnect.
I love how, and they emphasize it in this film, his show was not watered down.
It wasn't.
Not at all.
Not at all.
So it's I think the most authentic entertainment / talk show, but beyond entertainment, it also it was educational also, right?
Right.
And it was just like it wasn't watered down at all. Like we said, you had the James Baldwin was on there, and he didn't hold his tongue, right?
Hold his tongue.
And then you had Harry Belafonte, who still to this day is the advocate for, you know, his people. And so, just well done. And then you see the people. I love how they show you the people behind the scenes. This is the first time that I've seen a show where, like, the producers, executive producers, just everyone behind the scene are American blacks. So they're like telling their story without a filter, unfiltered, right? And just well done.
So I give Mr. Soul a 10 for all of those reasons.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the show for today, people. Boy, I told you it was a jam-packed show that we had for you today.
Great show.
We came both barrels are blazing.
Oh yeah,
today.
and then you have to tell whose album came out. Devin the Dude, right?
Yeah.
Can't forget about that.
Can't forget about that. Devin the Dude came out. You should definitely listen to his music. It's good, man. I'm gonna tell you, it's just good. Just good. So look, people, as we close out the show, you know, this has been the Valentine's Day edition, Black History Month.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? We had a jam-packed show.
Yeah.
We come on Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific,
Right.
6 p.m. Eastern. On Sundays. This is hashtag TFRPodcastLive,
Right.
the film review, movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast. Right. Don't forget, Monday through Friday is hashtag observations TFR. That's myself with my special guest host, my sister Tanya M. Congress.
Right. Another unfiltered show.
Yeah, that's right. Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Right? Then on Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. is my sister's show, What's the Point? Right? Where she gets into that Bible, the Holy Bible Society. You know, she gets into that Bible. You need to tune in. You're a Bible thumper. You're a Christian. You're saved. Get in there and get into the weeds of it. You know, you might be just on the top of it. Get into the weeds of it. That's what she talks about on her show, right? Yeah. Talking topics that you are interested in, even if you're not Christian. If you're Muslim, dive in. If you're Jewish, dive in. If you're Buddhist, dive in. Just dive in, right? So, people, this has been the second Sunday of Black History Month edition of hashtag TFR Podcast Live, episode 147.
You know what I have to add to our Valentine's Day special? When we review films, and when you mentioned Claudine, which is a great film, I have to add that to my list too. But that was my mother, one of her favorite films, Claudine. And I don't know if you remember, but do you remember when she had been looking, we were looking at the store, was looking for the soundtrack. None of the distributors had it. So eventually, when we had the digital machine in our store, we were the only store in the state of Ohio to have this digital machine. It was just a huge iPod, right? And so we were able to make her the Claudine. They had it. So we were able to make her the Claudine soundtrack, which was a beautiful soundtrack. Gladys Knight, right? And so, but yeah, Claudine was her favorite film. But yeah.
Yeah. So, people, we appreciate you tuning in with us on Sunday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, on Sundays. We are hashtag TFR Podcast Live, the film review, movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast. We are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy D.
Tracy.
And we review movies, music, culture, politics, society on a podcast called TFR Podcast Live. And we will see you next Sunday.
The Film Review, movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast, interviews, movie reviews, and more. live Sundays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern on the Spot Podcast and the Film Review Life channel. Subscribe.
Hi, this is Bernadette Stanis, Thelma from Good Times, and you're watching The Film Review.